What is up, everybody? It's Matt Johnson. We are back with another episode of Real Estate Uncensored. This is the place where you get actionable ideas, insight, and inspiration to turn your real estate career into a life of freedom. We've got a killer guest with us today. Glen Twiddle from Down Under, Australia is here with us. He is he's some weird combination of Greg. I don't quite know. It's all of our personalities wrapped into one human being. It's very frightening. So you're going to have a great time with us today. We're going to hang out and talk about how to become the Rockstar celebrity in your local market. So the people actually pick up this thing called a phone and they call you. You're not picking up the phone like Greg is. It's self-torture that he is. And calling other people and trying to get them to list with you, they actually call you. So first of all, let's bring in the junior grandmaster himself in the co-pilot seat. It is Greg McDaniel. He is here. He is active, he's in the co-pilot seat. What's up today?
What up, Johnson? Dude, we just got off a Rockstar interview on Glen's podcast in Australia. You know, dude, Home Cheese was up at 4 a.m. talking with the Johnson. We recorded for, 45 minutes on his podcast. It's going to go out all for, down under, which is the worst accent ever, by the way. I just did. I just made a mockery of your entire country in one moment. My deepest apologies. But, I mean, it was such a fun episode. And you guys are going to get a taste of what Glen does and who he hangs with and the shit he's moving around with. I mean, it's epic. It's awesome. And you guys, seriously. So we joked about Glen was taking notes on last time. Now the roles are reversed, and I am taking notes on this one. So, dude, Glen, what's up, man? Welcome.
Wow, man. I tell you, I was sitting there going, I'm sure I'm about to make a mockery because we do not do good American accents either. So, but I was sitting there in my brain going, I wanted to get on there and say, what are y'all talking about? I'm from Iowa or something. So, man, that was so cool having you guys sharing your knowledge to my crew. It really is, because I was saying to Matt off camera that we are seen as a little bit out of the box renegades, some of my guys, and it's just refreshing to meet a combination like you guys, because you guys remind me in my hometown of me as the marketing guy, kind of like the Matt equivalent, and Greg as the executor who's in there listing and selling a whole bunch of real estate. I've got my equivalent of a Greg. So it's just great hanging with you guys. I can see that you guys are doing such good things. It's awesome.
Wait, hold on. I need the audience to hear what your intro was for me. I was the living, breathing real estate, something of execution. What was that?
Okay. Well, I don't know. Oh, there you go, Matt. No, I just say stuff, right? But Matt documented it. The weapon of execution.
Living, breathing real estate weapon of execution.
I like it.
That's right.
Patent pending.
Matt immediately did the nose punch, which means that we did something awesome, and that was in the first 30 seconds of the last podcast. It was epic.
That's right. I just knew that Greg was going to be unwranglable for the rest of the day after that comment.
I am. Yeah. I totally
hashtag unwranglable. Spell that, if you please. I dare.
I'm dyslexic.
All right, so Greg, before we get too deep into it, I've got a question for you, Greg, if we get to it. But Glen, let's start with you. So obviously you're down under, but give us an idea of exactly where you are and kind of your history, because you mentioned you're the marketing guru, but you've been in real estate. You've done this, you've been in the trenches, you know exactly what people are going through, and you developed a system to help them do it better. So give us an idea of what that background is.
Oh, man, it killed me, bud. I mean, I was taught, I don't know if we're allowed to name names here, but I'm told there's a guy over there in your neck of the woods that still teaches cold calls. So I was taught, I mean, that's the only method of execution. Cool Facebook Live, just get on there and frickin' churn out the dialing for dollars. And that's all I was taught. I was taught one script to be done 400 times a week, and literally 396 times you're going to be told to go away, using metaphors far more profane than go away. And so I went on, because it killed my soul, right? Because before that, I was a singing, guitar-playing musician at the pubs, right? So not very good. I was just good enough to get paid at the local bar, right? And so I would go on a Saturday night from being the life of the party that everyone loved to on Monday morning slapping on a real estate badge, and 99% of the world hated me, right? And wanted to tell me to F off and all of that. And it killed me, right? So I went on a search of I added it up the other week, 7,000 hours of listening to experts. I traveled the world. I spent every dime that I had and a whole bunch of dimes that I did not have, traveling the world to figure out, how do I get those 4 people who were going to say maybe to me out of that 400? How do I get them to call me so I can avoid those 396 people telling me to F off? And that journey took me years. But then when I got it working, and no one else had done that in this country whatsoever, had taught a way to get sellers to call us and say, hey, Glenn, we're finally ready, man. Thanks for staying in touch all this time. When can you pop round? Right? And then I could go around. They're not calling in 5 other real estate agents. They're just calling in me. They're not fighting with me on fee. They're doing what they're told, heaven forbid, and they're actually treating me with respect. I'm like, this is not the way I was taught real estate. I'm onto something here. So I started teaching. 9 people was my first seminar. I had 9 mates, and I begged those 9 to come and listen to me for half a day, right? And they did, and they executed it, and they got the same result. So I really did think, how did no one, because I ain't the smartest bloke in the world, right? I'm from a little working class town outside of the capital city of Queensland called Brisbane, right? Little town called Ipswich, right? Which is not, it ain't New York and it ain't LA. It's a little, I don't know what the equivalent would be. Maybe Jersey or something for the New Yorkers. I don't know. But so I thought, how did people infinitely smarter than me not come up with this when they're out there still teaching call, get your face punched in metaphorically, and if you're knocking on doors, maybe sometimes literally. How did someone not come up with this? And yet the minute I started executing this system into real estate agencies across Australia, I was labelled a rogue. Some of my guys literally, I don't know if the term wagging it translates there, but let's say playing hooky, right? Playing hooky is when you ditch school and you go do something else. I would have agents play hooky from their office, tell their boss they're going to do an appraisal, and sneak into my seminars because they were forbidden from attending these rogue rebel seminars that Glen Twiddle's teaching these renegade tactics, you know. So now that's history, and that's what happened. Next thing you know, they see me headlining with Eric Thomas. And I'm bringing in Richard Branson, and there's the Titans of Real Estate event with Glen Twiddle and Richard Branson, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Gary Vaynerchuk, and then all of a sudden this renegade rogue who's to be feared. He's the Antichrist. They're like, ooh. So they're all starting to sneak in now, all these naysayers from years gone by. And let me just say that the guys that have been with me for the 5, 6, 7 years when we were in experimental days, they get a significant discount over the ones that are coming now that I've had to wear down for 7 years. They pay retail, my boys pay wholesale.
That is awesome. So wait, no, that's what it's supposed to be, man, loyalty. By the way, we have a large contingent of our female population that are listening. They all love your accent. Just to let you know, you got fans in the States.
Wow, that's cool. Well, I'm coming over to see you guys, man. I'm coming to LA for a little talk, but then I'm going to the guy who introduced us, Dave Pennell from Texas. Dave, oh, yeah. I hope you're listening. I'm going to be in Fort Worth, Texas in a couple of weeks to hang with you guys. So although, now let me turn the camera around. That's my beautiful partner over there, Naomi. So I am not allowed to play anything with those girls that are saying they like my accent, but you can come hang out with us, and that's all good.
Well, you know what? They love the accent. Haley is one of our longtime listeners, one of our founding listeners of our show, and she's Australian as well. So she's like, "Oh my God, it feels so good to hear my my countrymen." So yes, Haley's in Colorado. She's awesome. She's an unbelievably awesome lady. But Matt, I'm not gonna keep stepping on your toes because I see the look you're giving me, and you're like, Matt, Greg, just shut up and let's just get this thing going.
No, I'm fine. I wanted to make sure that we covered exactly, Glenn, where you've arrived at with this kind of Rockstar strategy. So tell everybody about the events that you're putting on and how that gives you access to guys like Gary Vaynerchuk and Richard Branson, Arnold Schwarzenegger, all that.
I guess a checkbook alone didn't do it, right? What I did is I went up in levels, and I thought to myself, what's possible? See, when I went to the next level after just doing little events with my little guys where I'd sort of, we'd have this almost rogue society that they'd come along and learn from, I said, what would it take? Because my favorite speaker is Eric Thomas, right? As far as a motivational speaker, Eric Thomas, E.T., the hip-hop preacher. So I said, what would it take? He didn't know me from a bar of soap, of course. He's got fans all over the world, But I messaged his Facebook channel, and I said, what would have to happen for you to come to Australia? And I started connecting with his manager, partner in crime, CJ, top bloke. We're like family now. But we ended up making Eric Thomas happen, right? And he came down. So that was the first step into that world. So it was a combination of the manner with which I asked as a fan, and secondly, I had to kind of make the dollars happen to cover their flights and things like that, because to get from America to here is expensive, So we made that happen. But Eric asked me this question from stage to the whole audience, and it was this, is what would your goals be if you weren't afraid? Right? And then another speaker a couple of weeks later asked me the same question but using different words, is what would your goals be if you couldn't fail? Right? And so anyway, I'm a good diligent note taker, like Greg was saying before. So I wrote down on both occasions, have Arnold Schwarzenegger headline at one of my events. Now, remember the caveat that he said, if you couldn't fail, that would be my goal. Or if I wasn't afraid, well, that would be my goal. Now let's come back to the real world. I can fail, and I am very afraid of setting that out there as a goal. But with that safety net, that was my goal. So now I can say this to you guys over in the States because it's embarrassing to admit. And I don't want any of my Aussies, any Aussies that are listening to this, just go away, because I don't want you to hear how embarrassing this is. I literally reached out to Arnold Schwarzenegger's people, and to find his people, you've got to find which person actually represents him, because there's a lot of people out there that say they represent speakers, and they're just there to generate the lead, and then they go to the people who really rep the celeb. So there's a lot of these lead generation sites. So anyway, I finally found the people. All I wanted was the quote. At some level, I wanted that quote of what monetarily that would cost, because I knew how much ET cost, and I knew that Arnold Schwarzenegger would be too expensive. It would be millions of dollars, and I would then have my excuse, because my crew, my tribe, knew that that was one of my goals, to have Arnold Schwarzenegger headline. And here's my embarrassing admission. All I wanted was the quote to be so high that I would have an excuse when someone come to me and called me to task on the goal. Hey, Glenn, how's that Schwarzenegger goal going for you? I wanted an excuse to say, well, you understand, Matt, mate, Greg, he's little old me, I can't. That's all I wanted. And the scariest thing in the frickin' world happened. It was still expensive, right? You still got to fly a celeb first class. You still got to pay a lot of bread to make that happen. But when the quote came back and they liked the manner with which I asked it, I'm a lifelong fan, teenager walking around going, hasta la vista, baby, and chill out, Duquad, and all of that. Big fan, right? Hustling. They liked the story that I was hustling together to make it happen. They liked all that. And the quote came in. It was more money than I had access to. Could not afford it by any stretch of the imagination. Didn't have the money, couldn't do it, couldn't think about doing it, but not by that much. Meaning if everything worked out, if I went to every client, if I said, hey, Matt, you know that coaching fee you pay me? I need 10 years in advance from you, bro. Okay, is that all right? If I pulled in every resource, every favor, everything I've got, maybe I might be able to make it happen. And that was a scary position to be in, because if I'm a coach of those guys, telling them to take a leap of faith, telling them they might have to run an event, heaven forbid, to bring their tribe into one central place and do an event or something where there's no listings coming out of that. Like a couple of weeks ago, a lot of my guys did an Easter egg hunt where they had to spend a few $1,000s in advertising and chocolate and all of that to get the 300 kids in the park in order to have some fun. If I'm preaching that to them for a couple of grand, then now admittedly there's a few extra zeros on what I was espouting, but it's the same principle. And if I'm teaching them to do it, how can I go and say, oh, that makes me a bit uncomfortable, I better not do it? So I had to do it. And look, the rest is history now. We've done it a couple of times. And after it worked out with Arnold the first time, and we had Josh Altman come out for that event from $1 Million Listing. I got on $1 Million Listing on the show. If you check season 8, there's Glen Twiddle. So it happened, right? And now that it's history, but I can tell that story with enthusiasm and with the benefit of hindsight, it all worked out. But at that time, I promise you guys, it was the scariest time of my life, where if that didn't work, I was bankrupt and I'd be saying, hey, Matt, do you need a PA? I'll come work for you, brother.
Yeah, but you know what? That's the incredible part about your story is the fact that we talk about there's 3 different zones in life. There's your comfort zone, there's your stress zone, and there's stretch zone. You went straight to stress. You were freaking the fuck out, right? But then you got comfortable in that scenario because you figured out how to work in that space. Then that became your stretch zone. Now you know that you're always pushing yourself forward because you're going for another big name, another person, that incremental step up the notches of up the ladder. Not that Arnold's at the bottom by any standard.
There's not much above Arnold.
No, there's really not. I mean, Branson's up there and a few other megas. But I mean, you know how to play in that sandbox now. So now it's your stretch zone. And that's your growth zone. That's where you're able to expand and thrive versus sitting back, in your comfort zone and going, well, fuck it, dude. I gave it a run, man. Oh, I gave it a good old college try and it didn't work out. Oh, well. And then like if you need a PA, well, here we are. Now we have Glen Twiddle as our assistant. So I mean, that's just not how it's going to be. But now people are going to learn. Now the cool thing is people are now going to stand on your shoulders because you're going to be a Titan. You are a Titan, right? And it came by going, sacking up and going out there and doing something to scare the shit out of you. Literally, probably didn't have too many sleepful nights. We're stressing out for a little while.
My sleep is for suckers T-shirt got to wear that year. I can promise you.
And I think that a lot of agents that are watching the show, I mean, maybe they aren't going to have access to Arnold Schwarzenegger or Branson or anybody else, but they do have access to that next level up of that one thing that scares them, that pushes them. And you are a walking, talking, living success story of doing what you were afraid of, or what was that out of your reach at that point, and you leveraged yourself. I mean, perfect example, E.T. His story that is infamous in regards to that, if you have to want to succeed as much as you want to breathe, and that is exactly where you were and where you are. You keep pushing yourself because you want it just as much as your next breath, and you will fight, claw, and kill for that next breath, and you did it for your business. So knuckles to you, player.
That's right.
Thanks, man.
All right. Well, let's talk about before we get into the practical application and kind of the effects that this has had on you and your guy, Chris Gilmore, right? And on his business.
And he's a great example, but there's hundreds of Chris across the country that kind of have applied. And that's the thing. This sounds like, gosh, you got a guy who talks about himself a lot. Well, Matt asked me my story, but that being said, these principles, when applied at a local level to my guys, work equally as effectively to turn them into the rock star celebrity of their world. You know what I mean? Right. So it certainly applies to your audience as well.
All right. And so how do people connect with you and learn more about you? And then we'll dive into that practical application part.
Wow. Fly to Fort Worth in 2 weeks. Come and hang out.
Well, Dave's here on the podcast with us.
Is Dave on? Dave, shout out, my man. Love you, bro.
And he wants us to ask you about open houses. So we'll get to that at some point. But I'm just very curious to see what the hell that means.
Well, that was the one thing Dave executed well. See, Dave is as crazy as us, man. Dave flew from Fort Worth, Texas to Brisbane, Australia for the first event I did with Eric Thomas. So he flew for the better part of 20 hours each way. And he didn't go see kangaroos. He didn't go see the Opera House, right? He flew in, came to our event, and flew home, man. That's why I'm going to Fort Worth. There might be 20 people, there might be 10 of Dave's mates in that room. I will fly to Fort Worth to repay a guy who's got that level of ticker. I'm going to Fort Worth for one person. That's Dave Pennell from Cities Real Estate, because he did the unthinkable to get the knowledge that he wanted to take his business through the stratosphere. That's respect, player, to my man Dave, who did what he shouldn't do. I'm sure his people in his area think he's a freaking lunatic for traveling around the world learning what he needs to learn. But tell that to the $1 million or whatever it is that he's earning. You know what I mean?
Exactly right. It's all about being a little bit crazy, man. It's about being a misfit. It's about standing out. It's about owning your own personality. As we said on your show, own your own crazy. I love that. Own your own crazy. I mean, whatever that's going to look like. And we have who's that? Jenny. She doesn't. She's from Long Island, Matt. She doesn't watch podcasts, but she says it's time to change, and she's using our show to do it. So Jenny, it is a distinct pleasure and honor to have you here. And you got one of the best freaking guests to start off your podcasting, journey here. So
that's right.
I love that, Jenny. Have we popped a podcast cherry? Oh, that's my first time. I don't know if that analogy translates, but there you go.
I think it does.
Right. Oh my gosh! All right, so let's dive in. So let's talk about how you recommend for your guys that are at the local level. How do they start to put this type of kind of rock star, rubbing elbows? Like who are their local celebrities that you advise them to start building those relationships? Like you reached out to Gary Vee and Arnold Schwarzenegger and started building those relationships.
Yeah, starting like I did with what's doable. See, you don't go from level zero. And so what I call it is it's introducing the advent of celebrity into a real estate business. And that really happens on two levels. One is, like we've just said, actually getting a celebrity to come and lend their credibility of being a celebrity to your brand. The first time I kind of did that, me going from level 0 to level 1, was Eric Thomas and a couple of local celebrities here in the real estate world over here in Australia. And then I went up in levels. So they could certainly do that, which is start with some, like if you guys are in San Diego. Now, I was just in, correct me if I'm wrong, yeah? You guys are in San Diego. So
I am, yeah.
I was just in San Diego, and I went and I hung out with the legend, one of Arnold's former competitors, Frank Zane. We did a cool interview or whatever. So Frank Zane is more affordable, I'm sure, than Arnold Schwarzenegger. There's no disrespect to Frank Zane. Frank Zane's one of the only blokes who in competition beat Arnold, you know. He's 74. He still looks beast. He unbelievable, right? So you could have Frank Zane come and speak at a local San Diego real estate conference for I would suggest, nowhere near the dollars that it would take to have an Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? And then what I did is whatever – what that's doing is if the local community comes and sees Frank speak about success and then sees Matt speak a little bit about marketing and then Greg talks about how to build wealth through property, that's a cool event, right? People would come and see that. Now, they didn't come to see Greg talk about how to build wealth through property. They came to see Frank Zane. But while they're there, they've got to see the support act. It's like going to see Bon Jovi. You didn't go to see the support act, but that support act might blow you away and you go, wow, I'm buying that album. I'm here to see Bon Jovi, but that support act was pretty good. So that's kind of one way to have the advent of celebrity is find a way to get celebrities to play with you. Right? And I've certainly done that, gone up in levels, and now we're talking with the biggest and best in the world, whatever. Now, the other side of that advent of celebrity is turning yourself into that celebrity. I've done that in my world by rubbing shoulders and by doing certain things that I reverse engineered. What makes Trainer Bob from The Biggest Loser, a personal trainer that might get 30 grand for a personal training session versus a personal trainer who might get $50, right? What has Trainer Bob got? Well, there's really 5 things that he's got that I'm going to go in some detail, in my trainings. And in fact, if you guys want a free training on that, they contact you. I'll give you guys a link for it and you guys can get a free 2-hour version of in depth what those 5 things are. And if anyone wants to come to Fort Worth and hang out with me and Dave, we'll go through it there live in the room for a day. But the headlines are this. I'll give you the quick 5 things now, and I'll answer any questions on that. The first thing Trainer Bob has, or any real celebrity has, that their generic counterpart does not. Right? So whether that's a famous real estate speaker versus a coach who goes in and isn't famous, whether that's a real estate agent like a Josh Altman who is called in versus a real estate agent who has to grind out the cold calls like me. Every industry has a famous version of what they do that is far more well remunerated than their generic counterpart. Dr. Phil in psychiatry, I'm sure, is hated by every shrink in the world because Dr. Phil gets a squillion. And nothing against Dr. Phil. He has done it, right? And let's face it, he's about my size. I'm carrying about 20 extra kilos than I should be. And he's got a weight loss book. There are people mad at Dr. Phil because he is the celebrity version of that. Because, see, they think that them being really good at what they do means they should be where Dr. Phil is. And they're mad that they're not, right? So what we do, let's reverse engineer. What has Dr. Phil got that the shrink who's getting $100 an appointment does not have? So the first thing is, here's the 5 pillars. Let's give them broad, and then we may go into depth if you guys have got any questions.
Yeah.
So the first thing is they rub shoulders with other celebrities. So practical tip number 1 that your guys can do is anytime you meet anyone famous, get the selfie. And then put that selfie on your social media. Get a quick grab of video saying, hey, I've just met Frank Zane here. He's down at the shops here. Frank Zane, for my guys here, what's the one tip you'd give on staying in such incredible shape, having a physique that most 30-year-olds would be proud of at 74? Frank Zane, what is it for you? That's good. That gives you a little bit of the rub of you and that celebrity. So tip number 1, celebrities rub and associate with other celebrities. Right? Tip number 1. Tip number 2, on a practical sense, don't have your typical real estate mugshot. I'm sure you guys have all got them over there. We got them over here, right? You know this one where you're sitting there like this, you cut off at the arms. Never has a real estate shot had arms. It's always been cropped there, and you're there looking at the camera going, right? Get some decent freaking photos that showcase your personality. You never see Arnold Schwarzenegger sitting there like that. No, So get some photos with you doing your photography for your marketing that actually showcases you as a person, right? Number 3, Dr. Phil's the author of however many books. Right or wrong, anyone who has written a book on their area of expertise is perceived by their marketplace as an expert, right? Despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. There's a whole bunch of people who've written books that I've read them, right? And not a freaking clue. But because they've written the book on that, they've even got the saying, he wrote the book on that, right? That means you know what you're talking about. So write a damn book. Number 4 is get interviewed by any means necessary. Get on video, whether that is on a Facebook Live, whether that is being a guest on the podcast. Me doing this with you guys is in some way positioning me as more of a celebrity to the real estate world than I would be if I was not on this podcast being interviewed. So being interviewed, we've got our guys that part of their pre-listing kits have DVDs of them on my show called Real Estate Experts. And I'm sitting there saying, hey, welcome to Real Estate Experts. I'm here today with the legend of all legends, the weapon of selling for top dollar, Greg McDaniel. Greg, thanks so much for being part of it. That positions you as a celebrity. And even if they haven't heard of Greg McDaniel, he's now positioned as one step up that celebrity ladder. And the last one in the 5 is get your butt in the media. If there's radio, TV, newspaper, or magazines, get there. I don't know, are you guys PG, M, R rated?
Dude, we're X. We're
X,
R.
okay.
We're not X. Stop it, Greg.
I am at what we might call a media whore. Meaning if there is a camera, dude, I am there. Let's tone it down. I'm a media tart.
Oh,
right?
come
I'm
on.
a media tart. There you go.
No,
But
come
you know
on.
what I'm saying? Get it, radio, TV, newspaper, magazine, get on television. Why do you think? Here's the thing. Let me give you the example of this one. Josh Altman was coming down to Australia to speak at an event of mine, right? And we were going to do just this. We were going to do a Skype conversation and whatever. And I said, dude, mate, let me know where and when. And instead of doing it on Skype, where would you have filmed your Skype? I'll be there in 2 days. Let me fly there just to do the interview. He said, dude, and I can't impersonate Josh, but I said, dude, it's a 15-minute interview. Let's just do it on Skype. And I said, I'll see you there, man. Where do I go? He gave me the address. So I flew 16 hours, 15 hours each way to go for a 15-minute interview with Josh Altman. And here was my thinking. If I do the Skype interview, sure, I'll get an interview. It's perfect. It'll promote the event. Happy days. But if I go there, I was promised nothing. But if I go there, I'll get a good photo with Josh. It'll be better to have a photo on the streets of Beverly Hills than it will to have a Skype screen grab, right? So I'll at least get the photo. But here's what he said. The magic happened just as I suspected it might. We were at dinner when I arrived. We're just hanging out. He said, yeah, swing down. We're having dinner at Beverly Hills. So we went there, Rodeo Drive, had dinner. And he said, man, before that interview, just swing by. Let me show you a few houses. They're filming me for their show, and we'll see if, I'll run you through a couple of houses. Look, I'm going to try and sell you one. You need a house in LA, don't you? Whatever. So we go and film $1 Million Listing, and I'm on the show that everyone down here idolizes, $1 Million Listing Los Angeles. Glen Twiddle's on it, and it's all because of that principle of being a media tart. I will go above and beyond. If there's even a chance that there's going to be a camera pointed at me, I'll be there. So they're the 5 broad principles.
You are
You
my
guys are like
Australian brother.
separated at birth.
It's so true. You say camera, I come running. I'm like, where? How big is it? Yeah, what's the audience like? Okay, I'm there. It's fun though. I mean, you get to get out there. You get to do cool, different, adventurous things. And the cool thing about it is that so we're media whores. We love being on camera. I get it. That's just who we are. But we also, from doing that and having that personality, we get to help a lot of folks see different parts of, real estate and maybe pick up a script, a technique, a something that will then put money into their bank account. And then you have then truly brought value to the industry.
Yeah. I feel really bad that we've glossed over literally a 2-day seminar in 30 seconds, but that's kind of I hope that in some way explains a little bit about how you could see that if a real estate agent did just those 5 things, they're famous in their local area. So I really hope that wasn't glossing over the subject too much.
No, Carla wants to be a media tart with you. She put that there for us.
Love it, Carla. Good girl. Just a media tart though, Carla, not the other sort.
Don't be a full tart.
So, Greg, let's go back to something you said, Glenn, when we were kind of off camera. I think this might have been when you and I spoke the first time. But you mentioned that, like, your guys had just come off of a big push for Easter, right, and doing, like, some big events and stuff like that. Give people an idea of what that was and what that looked like and how that positioned them in their markets.
Yeah, well, what they did was instead – because what I try and get for them is that they do stuff today that gets them a phone in, because nothing we do today from a prospecting or a marketing perspective or whatever is going to take a guy that in December 2017 is going to get a promotion and have to move to Santa Monica or something, right? Nothing that we do now to that guy in San Diego is going to turn a December 2017 seller into a, you know, I don't even know what month it is. April.
Just call
2000
it now seller.
Yeah, now. A now seller. You know what I mean? You're not going to turn a next year seller into a this year seller by anything we do.
Right.
So, and the thing that frustrated me about the cold calls when I was being taught to do that is, what were the odds of me happen to be making that cold call on the very window of opportunity where they need a real estate agent once every 7 years? The odds are astronomical, and I had to make 400 calls a week in order to find that window 4 times a week. You know, so the whole principle is them getting to know me when they don't need a real estate agent, so that in December 2017, when they do, I'm the only number they call. And it's the same. I use the same principle in my coaching program. I give away so much free stuff, and I do so much for free, whether that's on YouTube, whether that's on free CDs of the month that I send out, all at my expense, all for no money. And here's the reason I do it. They may be doing great now, and they've just listened to a couple hours of my content talking about how Michael Spillane or how one of my guys is doing great business or whatever, and they say, oh, that's a pretty good idea or whatever. I'm waiting for the day their principal says you're fired, or the day they get a brain fart and they decide they want to open their own agency. I'm waiting for the day they decide, for their reasons, they need a different way of marketing. They needed some out-of-the-box thinking or whatever, because I'm not going to turn him into that. It's probably a little easier for me to turn a tomorrow marketing client into a today one than a real estate agent. But I'm not going on that basis. I'm sort of saying, I'm here and you know who I am and you know exactly what it is that I do. As soon as you're ready, you'll come around, and that's the same thing for real estate agents. So that's what we did at Easter, is I want them to meet their people in their community and get to know Greg McDaniel before they need a real estate agent. And one of the great ways to do it, because when you're not in real estate mode, you may not care about the 7 ways to increase the value of your home because you're not really thinking about that yet. But if you're on Easter school holidays, and we have a school holiday period for a couple of weeks around Easter, so it's not just 4 days, it's like 2 weeks where parents are being driven nuts by kids. Mom, I'm bored and all of that. So if the local real estate agent has a family fun day with a jumping castle, bunch of activities and some free chocolate, man, that real estate, that event, see, it's not even the real estate agent. The real estate agent just happens to be the guy that's the host of this thing that the parents want. What do they want? A morning off from being annoyed by the freaking whatever. So that's why we do it. And literally hundreds and hundreds of parents, hundreds and hundreds, upwards of 1,000 kids are coming. Sure, it might cost the guy a couple grand worth of chocolate, but boy, oh boy, if that doesn't get one listing, I say to them all, if that doesn't get you one listing in the next 3 months that will more than cover the expense of that entire exercise, mate, I'll prospect for you until it does.
Glenn, I have figured out who can sponsor the Easter event and cover all the costs, and it would be a genius move on your part. A couple of dentists, because those kids are going to have some cavities. Like, hey, come to our event, sponsored by ABC Dentist Guy.
Wow. See, I know that you say that with joking, but that is one of the principles. If you can get a sponsor, one of my guys, Jesse James, who Dave Pinnell, by the way, met and all that. Jesse, that's his real name. His name is Jesse James. He runs a bull ride once a year called the Grassroots Bull Ride. Every year at that thing, he gets on a bull. The first year he did it, the bull's name that he rode was called Widowmaker. A real estate agent riding a bull, thousands of people coming to his local community event, and he's riding a freaking killer bull. Why does he do that? To get listings. That's it. That's why he does it. So we bring our community to us in ways that they want, not the ways we want them to come to us to say, hey, Greg, how can I add value to my home so that when you sell it, I get more money, right? That's why that's how we want them to come to us.
Right.
But what if they don't want that? What if they want a night off where they can drink some beers and watch the real estate agent get thrown off a bull and stomped to death or whatever? That's what they want. So my man gives it to them in the way they want, or the Easter egg hunt, or the local family fun day, or an event, or a cinema night where on a down night, like a Monday or a Tuesday, they go and negotiate a very lower rate at the local cinema. They put the Avengers movie on or the Star Wars movie on. They invite 200 or 300 of their guests. They chock fill the cinema with their guests for free, and for a couple of $1,000, they've made an indelible impact on people who would otherwise completely ignore a real estate agent for another 5 to 7 years until it is that they need them. So that's what the Easter egg thing was all about, Matt. It wasn't about Easter. The secret isn't in Easter. The secret is in the principle of meeting your people where they are with what they want to do, and you just happen to be the gracious host. What you become is, Greg's my mate who put a smile on my kid's face, who happens to sell real estate. So when I need real estate, I'm going to call my mate Greg, not the local guy who's sitting there professional.
All boring shit, all frozen face. One of the things that we did a while back, it was on a little bit of a smaller level, but we did an adopt a pet day. So we went down, to a local non-kill shelter. They brought their van out, and we went and peppered the entire area with flyers on this. I'll never forget this. My blender and I were walking down the street, and we had our flyers with us, and we see this mom and this little girl walking down the street. I'm like, hey guys, we're doing a pet adoption over here, at this bar called Magaz. Come on through, if you guys want to get a pet. The little girl turns to her mom and goes, Mommy, can we get it? And the mom knew exactly what happened. I'm like, I'm sorry, did I just get you in trouble? She's like, no, our dog just died, and we're looking to get a little puppy. Dude, I saw that little girl walking out of that event with a brand new black puppy, and she was like the happiest little girl, and I'm like, and swin, But
Wow.
I mean, that's the kind of positive impact you want.
I got to spend some time with he's a legend down here. I don't know if he's legendary up there, but he's a Laguna real estate agent called Bob Wolf.
Oh my God, you know Bob?
I love Bob. When Bob said to me, win the kids, win the mum, win the dad, win the money, I'm like, yeah. Bob's a genius, man.
No, my father and Bob have gone back for decades as friends. Like, Bob will come to our house and just come up on vacation and relax. Yeah, Bob's legit, man. Matt, this is the one I was telling you about earlier today.
2,500 deals a year, right?
He does some ridiculous deal, but I mean, no, that's another guy. That's Dick Wolf. That's Dick. Yeah, but no, Bob Wolf, man. Last time I saw Uncle Dick, yeah.
Dick Wolf. You can't say that on television. Sorry, go ahead.
But you know what? Last time I saw Bob at his office, he was in his like $5,000 suit on his knees with like 15 files and spread out in front of him.
No chair in his office. No chair in his office.
And he's barking at his 3 assistants, because his office is just him with no ceilings on his office. Jessica, Michelle, Stacy, I need this, and they're just literally running in and out. And I'm sitting there going, what the fuck did I just walk in on?
And because I got to spend a day with Bob in that office, right? Where a lot of it I was just observing that. And what I loved about Bob is he treated his staff with firm respect, because he's got a lot to do, he's got a lot on, but then instantly he can segue and chameleon, like when there was a client come in, wow, he was back to the Bob Wolf that the world falls in love with, and it was masterful to watch. One of the greatest real estate practitioners I've ever seen in action,
Yeah.
So no, he's great.
I'll reach out to Bob. We'll get him on the show. He's a cool dude.
Yeah. Pass on my regards. He's the greatest.
I didn't know you knew him. Let's see who else we know together. This is a fun game.
All right, so Dave Pinella, who introduced us, has a request for you, Glenn. Can you please tell everyone about the Heartland?
Well, it's a good principle, and it's based on Dave chipped in. Dave was part of a little conspiracy.
Really? Yeah.
Part of a conspiracy and it's based on this. Zig Ziglar once said, the great man, help enough people get what they want, you get what you want, right? So what happened was a bunch of my clients, including Dave Pinnell from the other side of the world, and led by the aforementioned Jesse James, and Chris Gilmore and all these guys, maybe a dozen of them, maybe 20, got together in a secret Facebook group that I was not privy to, and conspired to say, basically, we haven't paid Glen enough over the years, so let's buy him a Harley Davidson, right, as a tip. Now, understand that in Australia, we do not have a tipping culture, meaning we don't tip here, meaning we don't tip a waiter. right? The waiter gets paid $25, $30 an hour. We don't give them another $30, right? That's not how it works. So understand our culture is not one of tipping for good service. We pay for services up front without the tip, right? So understand when they gave me literally a $25,000, whatever that bike's worth, tip effectively, because in their minds, here's what must have happened. I didn't charge them enough for the result that they got. So they wanted to weigh up that psychological indebtedness by saying, hey, we better get him this thing. You know what I mean? So that was pretty cool, because I mentioned on some podcasts, or not podcasts back in the day, some CDs, that I'm not much of a car guy. I don't have a big flash $200,000 car, but I like bikes. I like my Harley or whatever. And at the time, I didn't have a Harley. Now, understand, they did not chip in to buy me a Harley out of charity. They knew I could have put one on my credit card and it wouldn't have made a dent. They bought it because it was a tip for services rendered that a bunch of my clients, I mean, I'll tell you, seriously, the day after I got it, I was riding down the highway to buy Naomi, who you just met before, my partner, a helmet. So I was by myself on this Harley riding across the Story Bridge, kind of like our little pitiful equivalent of the Golden Gate Bridge in Brisbane. I'm riding across it, and I tell you, I'm bawling. I'm sobbing with tears in my eyes, and it wasn't the wind in my eyes. It was literally, I'm sitting there riding this mongrel of a machine saying, what other coach in the world has been so valuable to their clients that they would do this? I can't think of another coach in the world that has a bunch of clients that has had that happen to them. And that's really the moment that I said to myself, you're doing it right. You've got it right if that's the case, you know. So that's the story of the Harley, man. And Dave Pinnell chipped in. I think he bought me the jacket, the $500 jacket with Harley Davidson on the back. I think Dave chipped in and bought me the jacket. So Dave, massive respect, man.
But that's such a beautiful testament, you know. So many people do here in America, the customer service level. What people think is good customer service is one level above crap. So what if, I was talking to my friend Ashley, we're talking off air. She's got married, and when she gets back from her honeymoon, she's going to come back on the show. She was originally on the show a year and a half ago, one of our first guests, talking about how she got a lot of clients through Facebook Messenger and how she's done a lot of work. Right now, she has over 8 escrows active right now. She has more people calling her day in and day out, and it's based upon her overwhelmingly huge emphasis on client customer service. And Glenn, that's exactly what you did. You brought more value than what was perceived, and people said, well, we can't just take and not give back. You know, the law of reciprocity was in full effect for you. And they're like, well, let's buy him a $25,000, bike. Ashley's going to show us how she is, slamming it in real estate today just by being that much better than the next guy or gal. Like last night, she got a call from a client at 10:30 in the evening, went out and showed the house at 10:30 at night. I mean, that's customer service, and that's the same level that you bring to the real estate realm, and to your coaches, and you embrace. The thing I love about you, man, I know we just met like 2 hours ago, but I already feel like I know you because we're brothers, homeboys, brothers from another mother. But the fact is that like you have a passion, dude. It burns up inside of you, to bring value, to do what you do, because you get excited. You haven't stopped smiling for the last 2 hours.
And it's 7 a.m. now, but when we started, it was 5 a.m.
If you're this happy that early, holy shit! I want to see you at 3 in the afternoon. But I mean, if the people that are watching our show right now could understand the fact that that's what you need to do to be ultra successful in real estate or anything you do, have a passion for it and love it. Dude, what did you get up at like 3 a.m. to get showered, dressed, and drive to the office, 4 a.m., get your butt into the office, flip the lights on, get the coffee moving, talk to Matt, then you bring crazy me on, and we just go from there and we start having a lot of fun. But it's not work to you. This is play. You're playing.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I get paid to play with my childhood heroes, with my new friends. That's literally the life I get to enjoy. I mean, you think about the last couple of years of my life, and this is only recent, right? Guys, it was literally 4 years ago. You could basically get me for $100 a day and I'd come and work with you, So, but in recent years, I've got to hang with my childhood hero. I mean, I was idolizing. I had Arnold Schwarzenegger's no, what do I mean had? I have still the same posters up on my walls, covering my walls, of my childhood hero. My adult hero, Richard Branson, has an entrepreneurial hero, and I get to socialize with these guys and hang out with them. And, you know, the invite to go to Necker Island, I'm going to Necker to hang with Richard. My marketing idol, Gary Vaynerchuk, spent a day in the offices of VaynerMedia in New York City on the Gary V show, where literally a week or two ago, Tony Robbins was in my seat on the Ask Gary V show. You know, I'm living the life of my dreams because of these principles that you guys talk about in your coaching program and on your podcast. There's so few of us down here in Australia who think like you guys do. I'm really one of the only ones, me and my little tribe of misfits. And I get to live the life of my dreams, man. What's not to smile about getting paid to do that? It's nuts.
I'm sorry. I'm smiling for you. I'm living vicariously through you at this moment because Arnold Schwarzenegger, get to the chopper. You know, you can never. I was like an Australian and Eastern Bloc Europe accent. That was horrible. Again, Matt, it's not my day for accents.
Wow. No, it is not. Good God.
God. Just delete that from your memory, people. Just delete that. But I mean, if you guys can honestly start living your dreams, if you're not passionate about real estate, get out of it. You know, honestly, if you don't have a passion for it, get out of it. Go follow something that you truly believe in. Life is going to be so short that when you're going to wake up one day and you're going to be 70 fucking years old and you're going to go, why did I beat my head against the wall for so many years in something that I thought I should do? You know, I'm lucky enough to have people around me that support me and encourage me to go after my dreams. But so many people don't have that support staff. They have the people that are trying to push them back down so they don't surpass them in success in any aspect of life. So guys, if you have naysayers and haters, dude, let them go. Tell them to go fuck off and go and cut them out of your life like surgically with a scalpel and never look back and keep the supporters around you. You know, Glenn, I'm sure that you had some haters. You might probably have some haters, but you know what? Do you listen to them? Fuck no. Do you care what they say? No.
They pay me now. I love it. I wore them down. It's the wear them down principle, brother. Hey?
That's right. Grant Cardone overwhelmed them with success. The best revenge is just more success.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So it's like there is a T-shirt that I do want to buy one. It says, "Need new haters. My old ones are starting to like me."
That's awesome. Need new haters. All right, that is fantastic. Okay, so let's wrap up with this. Any final tips? So there was a couple things I might want to go deeper on, maybe in a future episode. But any final tips for Glenn? How do you stay motivated on a daily basis? How do you feed that fire and feed that fuel to keep pushing and keep going? I mean, the events are not easy to put on. And obviously there's a big thing to look forward to where you get to rub shoulders with your idols, but it's months and months away. And between you and that next event is months of slogging through endless details and negotiating beverage accounts with hotels. And oh my God. So how do you feed the fire?
Yeah, it's if I've got that, I listen to a lot of this. So I think really my answer for it is 7,000 hours of listening to other people to infuse it in me. You know what I mean? It's like, I think it just had to rub off. 7,000, like if you think about it, these guys have been listening to us for an hour and they're already thinking, when's this guy going to finish up? That's 1 hour, right? Now, there's been some nuggets of information in there a little bit, but imagine if you went to literally a 2-day seminar, which is pretty much the limit of what I do is 2 days. Literally, that might be 12 hours of content, right? Maybe. Yep. So it's really hard to imagine what I've done in my brain to get this brain to be where it is, which is 7,000 hours over the last sort of 16 years, right? So when I started in professional development, learning, I was handed a copy of a book called The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz. And when I was handed that book, I strained the muscles in my forehead from rolling my eyes so condescendingly, thinking this is the shit Amway people read to get themselves all pumped up to sell soap. So if I'm going to spend $20 on a motivational book, screw it, I'm already motivated. I'll save my $20. That's what I used to think of professional development and listening to courses and trainings and tapes and all of that. I scoffed at it, right? But as part of the part-time job that I just undertaken as a bit of a hobby, real estate, it was a condition of being in that position to read this book that everyone else in the team was reading. So I read it begrudgingly. And I tell you, that was the start of an addiction that has lasted to this day, not only of motivational stuff with people like Zig Ziglar and Tony Robbins. Well, Tony's actually got some skills and some practical, but Jim Rohn and the motivational stuff, but combination of marketing guys, of Dan Kennedy, of Jay Abrahams, of what to do from a marketing perspective, right? All those legends. 7,000 hours of listening to that stuff. If you really put it down to it, it's got to be that. Because I wasn't like this when I started. I am now. I've listened to a lot of Tim Ferriss, and I envy those people that can have ritualistic, like Tim Ferriss would give credit to his early morning rituals, to getting up, to taking the tea, to drinking the supplements, to drinking the herb juice and all of that stuff, to doing the workout, to doing the meditation, and that's what sets him for the day, so he's good, right? Tim could give, but I can't give credit to that because I don't have rituals. I just get up and I just I have priorities of what I need to get done for the day, but for you guys, literally roll out of bed, push play, turn on a light. Hey guys, 4 a.m. You ready to rock on podcast? You know what I mean? So I'm sure that, how did I get like this morning? I listened to an hour of Dan Kennedy before bed last night. So now, and that's not just 1 hour that did it. That's, if you put Dan Kennedy in particular, just one of my marketing guys who I really hold in high esteem, probably 1,000 hours of mean old Uncle Dan in my head. Right? So that sum total of that, of knowing 1,000 hours worth of that genius's brain when I'm not a genius. I'm probably some Dan Kennedy fans are out there saying 1,000 hours. Geez, man, you could have got that in 50 hours a Dan. What I'm saying? It took me 1,000, but that's okay. If it took me 1,000 and I'm here where I'm at, living the life I'm living, I'll invest 1,000 damn hours, no problem. And then I tell you, out of that 7,000 hours, I reckon there's 2,000 hours that were kind of pointless. Probably 2,000 hours that were probably wasted that I probably didn't need, But in order to get to the 1,000 hours that changed my world, I had to sort, sift, and separate through 7,000 hours. So the long way to answer your question is, man, I would say it's hard to know because I live in me. You know what I mean? All I know is I wasn't like this. I started immersing myself in other people's brains, and now I am like this. Now I wasn't. Well, I'd never earned more than 50 grand a year. Before 2001, when I got into real estate, I'd never earned more than 50 grand a year in my life. I thought I was a genius earning about 45 grand a year playing guitar. I thought I was a freaking legend, earning nearly $1,000 a week.
For playing guitar, that is a legend. Yeah. You are a genius.
But I tell you, that was my world. I was not wealthy. Now I do a couple million a year, and that's not, everything, but it's all right. Couple million a year for a working class guy from Ipswich, and I give most of the credit to those 7,000 hours and my ability, or I suppose my willingness, or even my naivety to execute what those people in those 7,000 hours told me to do. Because I was so dumb about anything. I didn't know anything. I didn't have any brains, or I wasn't an idiot, but I didn't have any experience to be able to say, well, Matt, I don't think that advice is what I should do. I had no basis with which to make, so I just did whatever you told me to do. Yep. And then next thing you know, I end up kind of with those same mentors that I'm learning from, that are my friends, that are lining up to speak at my events. And now, again, we've mutated back to Glen here, but do know that everything that I've talked about, principle-wise, with slight tweaks, applies to a listing and selling real estate agent at a local level. Yep, and, we've got so many case studies that have done it, including from what I've known about Greg, including what Greg's doing. It's the same principles that have done and turned him into a local legend.
I accept that.
I accept that. I will second that on your behalf if you weren't gonna receive it, but sure, why not? It's true, though. Right? Now, if only we can get you rubbing elbows with Arnold Schwarzenegger, then that would be the ultimate level, and Greg's head will never shrink beyond jumbo size again.
No, and Glenn was very, nice. He's invited us down to Arnold's house to play some poker. Arnie, he's been pestering me and Matt to come down for quite a while. And now that Glenn's, secondary, allowing us to come with him, we'll let the Arnold know that we're heading down to kick it with him.
Nice.
No, but it is about thinking big like that. And Matt and I have different ways of thinking about goals. And Glenn, thank you so much for thinking as big as you did, because I've always said go for as big as you possibly can. Matt's like, no, let's do achievable. I'm like, fuck achievable. Let's go for the stars, man. Oh, literally and figuratively.
What I do with that, I always say to people, make sure the downside is acceptable, and you're not going to kill yourself if the downside. I don't literally mean that. If you're going to slash your wrist and you're going all in, there would be some people that would say you got to go all in. But I like to make sure, because here's the thing with some of my big goals: if the downside happened, the worst case scenario, no one turned up, and heaven forbid I go bankrupt. Well, is that really so bad? You know what I mean? The worst thing that could happen is bankrupt. 3 years where I've got to have a holiday and I can't be a director of a company, whatever I don't know what the ramifications are of bankruptcy, but you know what I mean? Like, I was okay with the downside. I certainly wouldn't have liked it, but it was okay with it. So once I was okay with the downside worst case scenario, then I went into full Greg McDaniel mode and I thought, what the hell's – you should see my list of 15 speakers, man. I've already been turned down by Michael Jordan to come down to Australia.
That's
MJ has said, thank you, Glen Twiddle, but no thanks. Even to have the refusal from Michael Jordan, it's like, shit, man. You know what? After that refusal came in, I was a bit bummed. I think, shit, no amount of money could buy Michael Jordan to come down. And I thought, you freaking idiot.
Yep.
You even had the audacity to ask the greatest of all time to come and play with you. What the hell happened to your brain, your little small town mindset? You know, what happened to you?
But the cool thing is, but he now knows you.
I'd say his people's people know me.
Yeah. Well, I like to think that he knows you, because then that makes you feel better inside your head. Like, Michael Jordan knows who I am. Yep.
Yeah, I have no such delusions. Michael's people's people know me. Michael's publicist PA knows me and declined on his behalf.
But it's going for goals, going big, you know, just never, I mean, the worst that's going to happen is they say no. The worst. It's like when you want to work with a buyer or work with a seller, if you don't ask, then you're never going to get that yes, right? If you're going for the gold, you don't try for the gold, you're never going to get the gold. You might even get the bronze or not even medal in the event. So might as well step up to the plate, man. Step up to the plate, because you are a living, breathing example of the fact that you can hit it out of the park. To be an average Joe guy that just, from little town, Australia or little town USA. Just don't have that mindset. That's a little mindset. Have the big city mindset. Have the mindset you can take over the world, and then just go after it and never stop. You can't fail if you never quit. You cannot fail.
And here's the thing, mate. What you just mentioned, the worst thing that happened is they say no. Well, wait a minute. If you didn't ask, the worst thing that can happen is what's already happening.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The worst case scenario is you're living. Man, you got to have a crack, So anyway, I must admit, I will acknowledge it's easy for us to say it with the end game in mind. I'm not going to minimize for 1 second how scary it is to put those goals out there and have a crack at them in earnest. I will absolutely look at that lens right there. Greg, you were telling me to look at that lens. I'm looking at that lens right now and saying I completely acknowledge that it is scary as shit when you're in the moment. And all I would say is the way I got through those scary days is I would listen to Tony, I would listen to Zig, I would listen to Jim Rowan, I would listen to E.T. en masse. And that was my way of kind of getting through those scary days, because it is scary as shit. It is grind. But if you go through it, you'll be the envy of all of your peers. On the front page of your local hometown newspaper, like I was a couple of weeks ago, Glen Twiddle on the front page of the newspaper in my town that grew up with. Man, dreams come true if you give it a nudge, give it a crack.
Yeah, but just, you know what? So the MJ shot you down this year, hit him up next year. Hit him the year after.
Wear him down, brother. Wear him down.
Like, by 2020, that son of a bitch is going to be at my damn conference. And then when he shows up, you're like, MJ, what up? Holy shit, you're huge. Oh, man. Unfortunately, Mike, we got to wrap this damn thing up. Dang it.
There we go.
We do.
Cool. Well, guys, thanks for having me on. Hey, come to Texas and hang with me and Pernell.
Yeah, I would. I might actually do that, to tell you the truth.
Seriously, Greg, I'm serious, man. You want to come? There's a seat next to me on the plane for you, bro.
Hey, I'm in. I'll fly all the way around the world.
How can people connect with you?
Look, the easiest way I would suggest for many of your listeners, I'm in LA in a week and a half at the Action Heroes Inc. conference. It's a little keynote. And if I'm just there for a little keynote, that means I've got a day either side that I can hang, I can do coffee or whatever. So that's LA on April 29. And then, like I said, Fort Worth, Texas, man. Come hang out in Texas. Hang with me and Pernell for a day where literally there's no cost, right? I'm going there to see Dave. I'm not charging a dime, man. So we just hired a little room. There'll be a bunch of us there hanging out and going through implementing all of this stuff we're talking about. So if you're anywhere local to LA or Texas, that will be the way in the next couple of weeks. But Other than that, you know what? If a marketer needs to do anything other than say their name, Glen Twiddle, then they aren't a marketer. So you guys will find me.
That's awesome. And with a name like that, it's very easy to find. So I'm guessing there's not 5 others that are also marketing specialists that are in the real estate space.
Broke the mold, brother. No, there's only one in the world. There ain't. There's one.
All right. Sadly, me, Matt Johnson, might not have that issue. Apparently, I've played drums for Jeff Buckley and a bunch of other people. And hey, not too bad.
Just how I roll.
That's right. All right. So for us, make sure to follow us on Facebook. You can find us all on Facebook. We're pretty easy to find. You can find me if you can't find me by name. Find me at Pursuing Results. Follow, do not friend us all. Basically, follow all of us on Facebook and connect with us that way. And then you can shoot us a message request as well through Facebook. For us, you can go to reuncensored.com. We're getting ready to overhaul the website in the next month or two, and so you'll see a lot of changes coming there. So if you're listening to this in the future, make sure to check out the website. We're doing a lot of cool things there where it's going to be the hub of everything that we do for the show and for our classes and courses and all that good stuff. So make sure to check that out. And Greg, any final parting words?
Yeah, guys, if you have learned one thing today, you've had the opportunity to meet Glen, who has literally reached out and chased dreams that he did not think were obtainable, and he is now the living, breathing proof that he achieved his goals, and now he's going to continually to strive. So if there are goals that you are trying to achieve, never ever once put the thought in your mind, because what you think about, you will become. And so if you're going to be a big celebrity, hang out with Arnold Schwarzenegger and go play poker with him, and go fly over and hang out with Branson and everything else when you grow up in a small town, if he can do it, why can't you do it? If you want to be the top listing agent or the best buyer's rep or the biggest team in your area or expansion teams at KW or whatever you're trying to do, then go after those goals and never stop. Like I said before, those who stop will die. Those who never stop can never not succeed in their dreams. If you stop, you're dead. All right, just know that the time is going to pass, no matter what. It's how you're going to spend that time, because when you get to the end of the rainbow, you're going to be going, son of a bitch, why did I stop halfway through? I could have been blah 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 blah. Don't stop. Always keep grinding. Follow me. Follow Glen. Follow Matt. Especially Stock Matt. He loves that. But then until then, guys, we love you to absolute pieces. And Glen, thank you for coming on, man. What a freaking treat to have you. Stay put. Don't you go away when we close this thing down. Matt, we're going to kick this thing off with rainbows, unicorns, and